Hi, everybody. I figured if I stood behind the podium, you wouldn't be able to see me, so you stand a better chance of actually seeing me this way. It's a pleasure to be here. Total Cancer Care is one of the areas I oversee, also our clinical trials office, our cancer registry, and a few other areas as well, all coming together to provide some translational assistance for researchers. How many of you are researchers in the group? And how many of you are research administration type coordinating people? And basic scientists? Proportionally? Okay, great. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is Total Cancer Care, a little bit about the protocol, some of the custom informatics that we had designed, because it is, after all, a bioinformatics conference, right? And then also talk a little bit about Orion, which is a consortium that we founded that provides yet another opportunity to expand the number of patients you could be looking at. So with Total Cancer Care Protocol, you can see the elements of the protocol around the screen. It's a lifetime consent. The only eligibility criteria are that you're 18 years and older, with or without cancer, and being seen at any portal of the James. We have access to anything that lives in the medical record. We can store genomic data. We can do sequencing and store that information as well. And importantly, oftentimes when you do biospecimen research, you have a snapshot in time of the data. Here, we can do longitudinal data. And we can look backwards, we can look forwards, and we have the ability to identify and recontact the patient. The reason that's important is because we hope to use this large database as a means of identifying patients in a very rapid manner for clinical trials, matching them to a study based on characteristics, eligibility criteria, identifying them, making sure they're still alive, and contacting them to invite them to join that other study. So it will serve as a recruitment arm, hopefully to get patients into studies before they die, when there's no other treatment options available to them. When we did this, we spent a lot of time, a lot of quality time with our IRB colleagues. This was something, we had a previous biorepository project that wasn't so great, and the specimens were very restricted in how they could be used. So because we wanted to consent tens of thousands of patients for a lifetime and look at everything in their EMR, people were a little bit nervous about that. And the fact that we needed that longitudinal data and the ability to identify the patients, they decided that we needed our own honest broker protocol. So Phyllis Teeter, who's the CIO of the medical center, is the PI for that protocol, companion protocol. So it allows us to provide that rich information to research teams. The IRB split a few hairs. We can do all sorts of sequencing under our protocol, but if you want to do complete genome sequencing, you would need a separate IRB-approved protocol. The bank is located up at our Polaris Innovation Center, and importantly, our protocol allows for commercialization. So we thought the patients might have a bit of a problem when we say if we discover a cure for cancer or new treatment, we may make money and you may not, but they're perfectly fine with it. They're happy that we're doing this. In fact, we did focus groups before we launched the protocol, and all the patients thought we collected their tissue anyway and didn't realize they had to give permission for us to do it. So benefits to the researchers. So because the other biorepository was marginal in terms of usage, our CEO decided that we're going to make this free. So very important to anybody who wants data or specimens or both. We are making it free of charge at this point. We pay for all the consenters. They're located in the James clinics. We pay for the procurement. We work with tissue procurement and the blood draw areas throughout the James. And we take that and bank plasma, serum, and DNA from the first blood draw, and then plasma yearly thereafter. And we also have worked really hard to make sure that we can give it to you in relatively quick turnaround times. Sometimes when the request is very complicated and there's a lot of complex data or a lot of requirements around the specimens, it will take longer, but we'll give you a realistic view of how that would look to you. So there's a program, I didn't put it up on the screen, called eRAMP. Some of you may know it's a shared resource ordering system for the Cancer Center, and you can place a feasibility request to say how much of what do you have in the bank, or do you have these data, and we can let you know, and if we have it, then you can place a formal request. It goes to a research committee by way of email, and they vote usually within a day on releasing that, and then you can have your data and specimens. If you don't, importantly, if you're looking at preliminary research, if you don't need PHI and you aren't doing any animal modeling, you don't need a protocol. So you can get data and specimens without even having an IRB protocol if you don't have those requirements. Otherwise, you would need one, and we'll request a copy. We do a lot of coordinating. So one of the ideas behind this protocol for Dr. Caligiuri was we're going to increase efficiencies and economies of scale. We used to have a lot of individual banks, PI-owned banks, and those sometimes are less efficient because you may not have a backup generator. You could use loose precious specimens. You may not have the manpower, person power to get into and collect the information out of the EMR that you need for your research. So we do a lot of consultation with PIs. If you're thinking about starting a tissue collection protocol or something like that, let us know. And we've coordinated with head and neck, with leukemia, with other areas to say, we can do this part, but oh gee, you want extra biopsies and extra passes. We can't do that, right? Why don't you write your own protocol and then we can fulfill everything else. So it saves people time, saves them money, and it grows the number and types of specimens that we have in our bank. And we can also, if you're interested in cheek swabs, nasal brushings, fingernail clippings, eyebrow follicle, things like that, those can also be collected under our protocol as long as you have someone to collect it, and then we will bank it for you. So there's no extra consent for that. So we launched in January of 2014, and we did a phased-in approach, launched 3 clinics or so every couple months, phased it in, and hematology is going to be coming online this summer. So you can see that we have over 28,000 people consented. We have a 96% consent rate. We can approach up to 3 times. So we approach the patients and say, would you like to do this? And we can go through the consent. They can say yes, no, or I'm not sure. And we can approach them 2 more times. If they're still unsure, we count them as a no and don't approach them again. But generally speaking, everyone pretty much converts. There's only about 4% of patients that say no to joining the study. So that's a good thing, and that enriches our data that we have to provide to researchers. So we have some customized informatics, and Paula Smales, raise your hand, Paula. Nicole Rutledge and others were very involved in doing a lot of the things in Epic with us, but we worked very closely with BMI and no fewer than 9 different informatics teams from the medical center to accomplish these things. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how we've leveraged Epic and other systems in ways we didn't think we could to support the scalability of this study. I'll go through those, and Paula actually presented on some of this at the Epic Research Advisory Council meeting this spring, right? So scheduling. We use Epic as our record of consent. So we have a research study record that we populate, and we have a documentation flow sheet. The research study record is our permanent record. The flow sheet gives us real-time information that allows us to know who said yes, who said no, and who is undecided. And if you look at it, our consenters can pick the doctors they're going to work with that day, bring up the schedule, see the patients on the schedule, and see where they are. Did the patient already enroll? Did they say no, or are they not sure? And which attempt are we on, so we don't overstep and try to consent them when we are at our limit. So because our consenters consent all day long in different clinics, it's really nice for them not to have to go to a separate database, look it up, see who's on or off the study. So that's been tremendously helpful for us. Tissue collection. So tissue procurement staff and pathology get our tissues for us out of the OR. So they go to the OR after a surgery when the patient's total cancer care consented, bring it back to the gross room. If there's adequate remnant for research, they will take that and snap freeze it. But they have a high volume of patients going through all the operating rooms. So we have a little icon there. And Nicole and others had a sense of humor when they developed it because you may not be able to see it, but it's a gift box. So there's a separate column for total cancer care, TCCP, total cancer care protocol. And they thought, oh, we're going to go to the OR, take the tissue, put it in a box, and put a bow on it and deliver it. All right? So tissue procurement staff can see at a glance that this is an opportunity to take tissue for the study. And that's important because otherwise they have to go into the medical record, look for the research flag, look at all the studies the patient is on, and prioritize those studies. So if you have an investigator-initiated study, rest assured, or a clinical trial, it will always come ahead of banking. So tissue first, there's a behind-the-scenes prioritization. Tissue first goes to a clinical trial, then an investigator-initiated study, an NCI-funded study, and banking's at the bottom. But that's been a great efficiency for us as well. With regard to blood collection, we can draw up to 4 times a year. We choose to draw only once right now because we want to look at utilization and make sure it was really worth doing the extra draws. It's always done in conjunction with a clinical draw, never an extra stick, and we front load the first blood draw of the first year and do plasma, serum, and DNA from that, and then we'll just do 1 draw a year after that. So a team worked with Epic directly to have the opportunity to batch order it. So if any of you have ever tried to order a blood draw and approve it, it takes about 13 mouse clicks, if I remember correctly, for one person to order a blood draw on a patient. So thanks to folks at Epic and here, we now have the ability for our study nurse practitioner to order blood on anywhere from 1 to could be 1,000 patients with 3 mouse clicks, which is awesome. The only downside is that the feed from Epic only happens every 24 hours, so it's a little bit delayed, but we're working to try to fix that. We have reports that can be generated, so say patients have a blood draw order in the system, but they didn't get it drawn for some reason, we can get a report of somehow it was accidentally deleted and be able to put it back in. So a lot of efficiencies with regard to blood draws as well. So those are things that our Epic research folks here really helped us with, and it's been great for our study, very, very helpful. We also worked with folks from Biomedical Informatics who have since gone into a spin-off company owned by the university called Signet Excel, and we worked with them while they were here to do an ETL from Epic that feeds a total cancer care portal. That's a web-based portal. And again, that refreshes every 15 minutes. It comes from the research study record, the doc flow sheet, a lot of information flowing over from Epic into a portal that we can search, and it gives us reporting capabilities. So I have to report to my leadership team, how many patients, what are the demographics, what types of diseases are we seeing? And this allows me to do that on a regular basis. Importantly, it also feeds some other functions. So in tissue procurement, they have their regular systems that they use, but for this, we wanted our own system, and we wanted to, again, help the IRB be more comfortable with, maybe it's a homegrown system, but it has safeguards built in. So the ETL will populate the Biospecimen accessioning portal. So when tissue procurement staff accession, say, a piece of tissue, it's going to auto-populate the demographics. They'll type in a medical record number. If it's not a consented patient, it will kick it out. So it reduces human error. And if it is a consented patient, it will auto-populate the information on the patient. It knows intuitively what was the procedure. Was it a blood draw or was it a surgery? And then all they have to do is use some drop-downs to say what anatomic site, how many grams, and that type of thing, and finish populating the rest of that. And then it will generate a shipping manifest for us. And it will talk about what are the specimens, and it will generate a hard copy and an electronic copy that goes with our shipment to the bank that happens on a daily basis. So that's been very, very helpful to us. Again, reducing human error, making things more efficient, and reducing duplicative entry. We also had a special projects portal designed, and you'll hear a little bit about how some of that is populated in just a second. But that helps us. We have a big project that we're doing with a national consortium where we're sequencing patient tissue and getting research-grade genomic data back. And then we have 125-ish data elements that we have to populate within 30 days of shipment, and then refresh those plus more every 6 months until the patient expires. We just pushed 1,048 patients through the system, so you can imagine it's a lot of data entry, right? So we had a portal built for us that some of it will auto-populate when things live in a discrete field, and then the rest can be done by hand by my certified tumor registrars in our cancer registry. And so we can accession biospecimens on the previous screen, and we can do data abstraction, which is just a portion of the screen shown here. So again, it's trying to increase efficiency and effectiveness, and with a long-term goal of probably in about a year, the Cancer Center will have developed a data abstraction core, so we will provide services of data abstraction for our researchers, so you don't have to pay medical students, residents, and fellows and others to do it. So there are some additional tools. There are many, many more than what's shown on the screen, but we've had a wonderful demonstration of the Remix platform by Radiology, and that's a research platform that they're able to strip identifying information off images, and we're able to make those available through Total Cancer Care and link back into those as needed. We have worked with Radiation Oncology. They have a new data warehouse that we're really excited about for their data to be able to link into that for researchers. Inspirata is a company that is supporting our digital pathology initiative. So all of our paraffin archives are being digitally imaged and stored so we can refer back to those. Whenever we ship anything out for Total Cancer Care or nationwide projects, we take a digital image of that as well so we can refer back to it. They also have a number of other areas that they're into. One is natural language processing. And so we've done a pilot with them on natural language processing. And you'll see a poster that was presented at a pathology informatics conference But it's really promising. Things are coming over with 98 to 100% accuracy as we continue to train it. So we're looking at opportunities to bring over definitive diagnoses from the pathology reports, genomic data, and to facilitate us in pulling blocks, the search path IDs, and other things. So stay tuned, and that would be part of the service that would be available to researchers and also through the data abstraction core. Avec is a product, I believe Omkar probably spoke to the iteration that's currently here at OSU that's been rebuilt on a slightly different engine by the company that spun off from OSU, and that's something that we use for our research that I'll show you how the conceptual idea of that in just a moment. And in future, we're going to be looking to expand our natural language processing and looking at, we have a new biorepository laboratory information management system, basically an inventory system, but one that allows us to link to other systems and store genomic data and other things. And for some of the other larger banks like Leukemia Tissue Bank or other projects, we can make licenses available to researchers to also use it. So we're really excited about it, and we're also looking at trying to automate workflows. As you might imagine, when we're trying to, probably 75% of the samples we sent out were paraffin samples from clinical archives. So when you're trying to coordinate that volume of workflow with tissue archive services, it gets challenging for everybody. So we're looking at automating that as well. So that's a poster that I referenced that was at a pathology informatics conference. You can see in the little circles, sort of in the third column from the left, you know, we had 100%, 99.7%, and about 97% accuracy with pulling different things over. We're very excited about it and hope to put it into play real time very soon. As an example, the cancer registry for the James is required by state to report to the state registry for all cancer patients who are seen here. We get a data push from pathology of all malignant and non-malignant patients. That's about 2,000 to 4,000 patients a month. And my staff has to go through them and sort out the malignant ones. So we trained the NLP engine to do that for us, and that's been very helpful. So we no longer have to do that, and that's 100% accuracy. So I'm going to take a breath there, ask if there's any questions at this point that are popping into your head, and you can always save them for later. Yes, ma'am?
What platform is your laboratory?
That's going to be LabVantage. It's a great program. We're happy to demo it once we get it up and running. So all this being said, really the end game, our CEO would say, we want to be the cancer Amazon. How many of you have ordered from Amazon? Surely a few more, I think. Okay, so now I didn't know what it was 5 years ago. Now I can't live without it. I get everything there. I never have to go to a store, hardly ever. And I love it because I hate to shop. Right? So Dr. Caligiuri says, so I ordered a book for my wife, and it says, if you like that, you're going to like this. Sure enough, she had already read those other books. She loved the new books. And so, and how can they do that? Because they have big data, right? So that's the same thing here. We want to have tens of thousands of patients, currently only 28,000 in Ohio, but 176,000 nationwide, and have a repository that we can search pretty much real time to get at information to rapidly match patients to clinical trials and to personalize their treatment, right? So this is something, basically what we want to do. We want to identify their cancer, identify the best treatment, and personalize that treatment based on the big data that we've been able to analyze. So that gets us to the right patient, the right treatment at the right time. So the Avec tool, and it gives us an opportunity to do that. So here, I guarantee you, that's 1,000 squares right there because I've counted it when I've had insomnia, all right? So, which is easy to do working at OSU, right? So if we want to narrow it down to African-American females, 50 plus years old, you see how the number of squares continues to be reduced. We look at stage 3 breast cancer, HER2 positive, and previously treated with tamoxifen, we have our cohort, okay? We're going to take those TCC numbers, get their medical record numbers, identify them, find their contact information, make sure they're still alive by checking them with our cancer registry, and then contact the patient and see if they want to be contacted by the other study team. We have done that query, and we've done incredibly complicated queries for pharma already to look at identification of cohorts or just feasibility requests. Can we actually do this study at Ohio State? And it does it in minutes. It's very, very nice. It can stand some refinement, like everything, because we're kind of perfectionists, but it's really helping us get to the right patient, the right treatment at the right time. So we're very, very optimistic about being able to use this to support clinical research. So I did a Wordle because I didn't have a live demonstration to show you. But what Avec does is it takes anything that lives in a discrete field from any system, and it will aggregate it into a data set. So we can aggregate from our cancer registry, where some things live that don't live in the medical record. We can do it from the medical Clarity, which is the back-end database of Epic, and other systems, and we aggregate those data elements, and then we're able to conduct those searches like I just showed you. We're also able to drill down. It's not identifiable information. It has a hash, so we don't know who the patient is. But if I see that they were on tamoxifen, I can drill down and look and see what were the start and stop times, how many regimens, what was the dose, and get to that level of detail which may influence eligibility criteria for a study. And the data set we're working on, it will expand over time. We started with a small one so we could control it and actually see if it worked. And now that we know it works, we're constantly working with Rob and others to know what's new in Epic that lives in a discrete field that we can pull over to enrich the data set. So that's a little bit about informatics that we have to support total cancer care and projects at OSU. For researchers, I wanted to point out that we also have Orion. It's like the constellation, but with an E. It's the Oncology Research Information Exchange Network, and it was founded by Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida, and OSU by Dr. Caligiuri and Dr. Dalton. And the purpose of this really is to take total cancer care nationwide, build an even larger repository, increase the denominator to facilitate research. And you can see the members there. There are currently 15 members. It includes Walter Reed Army Hospital Cancer Center and a number of others throughout the country. The VA system is looking at joining. We're working with them to try to figure out how we can leverage their protocols already in place so they don't have to write yet another one. But we have 2 more that just joined and a waiting list of over 10. And this is important because everyone will do what we've done here. They'll implement total cancer care, and they agree that to enroll patients in it, to share data, to share biospecimens, same principles that I went through: lifetime consent, ability to store genomic data, ability to access anything in the medical record. And it's working out very well. It's variable in terms of how long it takes an institution to get total cancer care up and running, but everyone's gotten it up and running and are beginning to accrue patients to it. So everyone does that. We all keep our biospecimens at our home institution. We don't aggregate those centrally, but we do send about 516 data elements on a monthly basis to the operations arm in Tampa, Florida, and that's no personal health information. And so they aggregate that there, and they are able to search the entire network on a regular basis for members or for pharmaceutical companies who are interested in doing studies. We have a very robust governance structure and a lot of committees to make sure things work right and to govern how things work, a scientific review committee and data and specimen governance committee, so everyone's fully informed about what's going on and what the projects are. And all the administrative support comes out of Tampa, Florida, and OSU and Moffitt. So that is a consortium, so that opens up the opportunity. If we have a small number of patients here, but you're looking at needing a larger number of patients for a study, you can send me, right now it's just contact Nancy Single. You can send me an email and say, I'm interested in doing a study, or I want to know what Orion has, and then we'll fill out a feasibility form for you and conduct the query and get back to you with the information. So it's sort of one-stop shopping. Eventually there'll be a mailbox, but we don't have that done yet. So Orion Avatar is our first product that we have developed as a consortium. Avatar is essentially a subscription service that pharmaceutical companies buy, and it gives them a view into de-identified data sets, much like I described before, but that includes that additional data abstraction of the 120-ish data elements within 30 days and every 6 months. That includes subsequent cancers, subsequent treatments, performance status, all different things. And so this is basically looking at how are we going to satisfy the need for biomarker-driven trials, which is a large proportion of what we currently do. And we're really at tier 1 right now, so what happens, I'll show you a workflow, but if a patient's total cancer care consented here at OSU, they are Avatar eligible. Once I know they have a certain type and stage of disease, because it's focused on mostly on aggressive or later stage diseases, I can say, okay, and I know I have matched tumor and germline specimens, a lot of ifs, right? Then I can send those specimens to Hudson Alpha, which is a molecular sequencing vendor. And they'll do whole exome and RNA-seq, and those data will be then sent to DNA Nexus, which is our data hosting vendor. ultimately, where we want to go is the tier 3, which is if we have a very nice assay that we're doing here, and Dr. Jones is developing a lot of them in molecular pathology. If we have a nice assay, we could be the provider for Orion and create a revenue stream by doing that, and also be able to perform it for pharma. But right now, we're just focused on getting level 1 done correctly and well. So I think I already described the general workflow. Like I said, we pushed 1,048 patients through, mostly solid tumor, a handful of hematology. In the first wave in the last 6 months, we're starting up again, shipping our first shipment out this month. There'll be, this year there's a focus on pancreas, lymphoma, lung, and leukemia, but any cancer is welcome, basically. But sometimes you have to meet a stage requirement. What we're going to be doing is working with what we call our disease-specific research group leaders, so Dr. Carbones, Rocco's, et cetera, Birds, to provide a dashboard. This is how many total cancer care consented patients we have. Here's the disease sites. Here's how many have specimens. Here's how many have been through Avatar. And by the way, the data is available. So that will be coming out on a regular basis to support people knowing when they can access information. So importantly, there's opportunities for intermember projects. So there have been some proposed from OSU as well as other sites. Again, that would come through me, and Dr. O'Malley from Gynonc is my physician liaison for Orion. So if you have an idea for an intermember project that you'd like to conduct with another Orion member institution, let us know. We obviously have a lot of industry projects. We think this is going to be something that's very attractive to pharma. We already are having our first clinical trials go through the system as Orion clinical trials. And we have set up, it was very painful, but we have common contractual language that we will all use as members, and then everyone gets to negotiate their own budgets. And so that's underway as well with our first clinical trials for Orion. The first one we're doing here is actually a quality of life study in advanced stage lung cancer patients who are on immunotherapy, and that started in January. So that's your quick overview of total cancer care here, Orion, and opportunities to support your research. I'm happy to take any questions.